If you have or had little kids, then you know that spring is a season for buying food coloring to dye those Easter eggs. Once you dye those eggs, what do you do with that extra food coloring? Why not use those colors to make colored sanding sugar with custom flavorings? Colored sanding sugar adds color, sparkle, crunch, and additional flavoring to your cake or cupcake frosting, like in my homemade Mardi Gras marbled king cake. Why not sprinkle it on toast with butter for a fun, sweet breakfast treat or afternoon snack? In this video, I'm showing you how to color and flavor regular granulated sugar using the standard colors that come in a food dye package, along with optional corresponding flavors using flavoring extracts. Let's look at the ingredients you'll need for 5 different spring colors and flavors I'm sharing with you today. For the basic supplies, you'll need granulated sugar. Cane sugar tends to have larger crystals like sanding sugar and is best for coloring and flavoring. In addition, you'll need a package of the 4 standard liquid food dye colors like red, yellow, green, and blue. For optional extract flavorings, I like to use lemon, orange, peppermint, and strawberry or strawberry watermelon water flavoring. That's right, what a surprise. You can also add vanilla or almond extracts. The flavorings in these recipes are more nuanced rather than strong candy flavorings. They are meant more to enhance the same flavorings already in the frosting or cake that you decorate. We're going to prepare the drying pan or pans depending on the number of colors and flavors you make. You'll need enough space to spread out the sugar separately since it needs to dry. I'll be able to put 3 flavors on a large sheet and 2 flavors on a small one. Let's begin with the yellow sanding sugar with lemon flavoring. You can also use banana extract in place of lemon for banana flavor. You're going to start with a quart-sized plastic zip top bag or a glass jar with a screw top lid. I've used both. Both work fine. To the bag or the screw top jar, we're going to add 50 grams, which is a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Large granules is best, and I just use simple cane sugar, and those granules are large enough that it works just fine. You don't need any special sugar. This is the part where you have to be careful because you don't want to add too much of any liquid, right? And if you do, it's okay. You can always add more sugar or just start over. So to this, we're going to go for more of a pretty pastel yellow coloring. And so I'm just going to use 3 drops for now of the yellow food coloring, and then you're going to add either an 1/8 or 1/4 teaspoon of lemon or banana extract. This is my lemon. You can start with an 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's very, very nuanced, so I prefer to use a 1/4 in my extracts. Just be very careful. And I always pour my extract over another teaspoon. In case it spills, I can just pour it right back into the bottle. Then you're going to seal up the bag. And I like to use the quart size here because it gives me enough space to grab a hold of the top, leaving a bulge in the bag so that I can shake. And then that's all you do is you just shake until it reaches the color and it disperses throughout the sugar. If you want darker coloring, just add more food coloring. It's that simple. If you see any extra food coloring hanging out in there, just mix it in with the sugar. You can do it by hand like this. Okay, so once it's dispersed, I'm going to place it, whatever, if you're using a jar or the bag, just pour it out onto your wax paper. And then you could use your fingers or just take a measuring cup or a jar or something and just sort of disperse the sugar around. It's wet right now because we put the extracts in the dye in it. So we do need it to dry. It'll just take a couple hours to do it. What I usually do is make it the day before I know I need it or weeks ahead of time, and then let it dry overnight. Then we'll come back and check it tomorrow and it should be all dry. You just want to leave it uncovered at room temperature. Let's make the green sanding sugar with mint flavoring. So again, you're going to start with a plastic zip top bag. I've actually already been using this to make my green with mint extract, but this time we'll use a jar just so you can see what that looks like. Just make sure it has a screw top lid. So to the jar or the bag, we're going to add 50 grams, a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Again, we're using sort of the cane sugar because it has a larger grain to it. Okay, so now we're going for 3 drops of green food coloring, and the 3 drops makes it again more of that light sort of mint looking color. You could always add more if you want. Here's my 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna use peppermint extract. You can start again with 1/8 teaspoon if you want it very nuanced. If you want stronger flavor, go with 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm gonna use 1/4 teaspoon. I want a little bit stronger flavor today. Once you let it dry with 1/8 teaspoon, you can always go back and add more if you want stronger flavor. It's all in there. So now we close it up and just give it a shake. Just as we did before, we're gonna open the jar. We need to let the sugar dry. So I'm just gonna pour it out onto my wax paper. You can use a little spatula if you want to get all of that good green sugar out of there. Ooh, it's nice and minty, I like it. Imagine a bowl of mint chocolate chip ice cream with some whipped topping and a sprinkling of the sugar. Talk about minty, that would do it. Again, just spread it out so that it has plenty of space to dry. Okay, and so then what I like to do once I start getting more than one sugar on a pan, I'll lift up the wax paper of the previous sugar and I will let the wax paper edges be sort of my divider between the different ones that I put on the pan. Okay, and that gives us space for one more. Now for the orange sanding sugar with orange flavoring. You could start with your quart-size bag or again, a jar with a screw top lid. I'm gonna go back to the bag for this one. So same thing, you're gonna add 50 grams, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Since we're mixing colors, think back to your color chart when you were in elementary school. So we're gonna mix 3 drops of red with 2 drops of yellow food coloring. And that gives us a bright orange. And I like the red and yellow combination for the orange. So you really have to concentrate because you don't wanna put too much in here. So that's 1, 2 red, and number 3. Okay, perfect. If you do add too much food coloring of say red, you're gonna have to have extra drops of yellow. You need to do the math. 1, 2 yellow. So for this one, I want orange flavor since we have orange color. So I'm gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of orange. I do find for this one, 1/8 teaspoon is not quite enough. Okay, then we're just gonna seal it, leaving that air in the bag so that we can create our little bubble and then shaking vigorously. Look how quick that turns orange, isn't it gorgeous? So now we're gonna add the orange next to the green. So using the wax paper as my barrier between the 3 colors. Lift up that edge and then pour out the orange. And I'm just gonna smooth it out. 3 down, pretty colors for the spring, right? For the 4th one I'm sharing is the purple sanding sugar with, I'm gonna use almond extract today. You could use vanilla or even anise. Anise would be fantastic, and you can find anise extract in the grocery store. Easy to find. And anise is that licorice flavor. So if you know someone who loves licorice, go for the anise because this would be awesome for them. Start with a quart-sized bag or a jar again, and you're just gonna add your 50 grams of sugar to the container. This is 1/4 cup of granulated. So for this purple color, I'm going to mix 3 drops of red with 2 drops of blue. Red bleeds so much. I like to have a napkin nearby to keep everything clean so it doesn't stain. Okay, again, I'm gonna have to think when I do this because we don't want to put too much in there or I'll throw off our ratios. So 3 drops of red, 1, 2, 3. Whew, 4th one almost came out of that one. And then 2 drops of blue, 1, 2. So I've used 1/8 teaspoon of almond extract. I can't taste it. So 1/4 is better, or go with a different extract. Or don't put any extract in here at all. Pour it over on the side. Okay, all the liquid's in there. Let's seal and shake vigorously. Oh, quickly, purple. If you find a little dollop of liquid sticking in your container somewhere, either on the bag, squish it with your fingers, or just use a little spatula and break it up. And then, of course, shake it again just to make sure that it all gets dispersed. Okay, this looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm on to my second baking sheet here. So just, as usual, pour out that sugar. You'll notice that when you add like the liquid to the sugar, it'll crystallize the sugar even more. It'll clump it up so that you have larger crystals. And as it dries, you'll get to see the larger crystals. It'll be larger than this original sugar that you started out with, which is what you want in a sanding sugar. This extract may seem like a lot, but remember, you're only putting a little bit on whatever you're eating. You're not eating this like candy, right? It's meant to enhance your dish. So now that one's ready. So finally, I'm making my pink sanding sugar with strawberry watermelon flavoring. You're gonna be surprised at this one. So as before, start with jar. I'm gonna add 50 grams, quarter of a cup of granulated sugar. To get pink, I choose to go with the combination of red and blue here. So I'm gonna use 3 drops of red, 3, okay, and 1 drop of blue. So then if you have strawberry extract, use that in place of what I'm gonna show you. If you happen to buy those concentrated liquid water flavorings, and I bought one actually to test this to see if it works, and it actually does. I use rose water, I can't get strong enough, and I wasn't able to get the strawberry concentrate to work either, but extract should be fine, or go with this. You'll be really surprised. So it's gonna be the same amount. I wanna put 1/4 teaspoon of the strawberry flavoring here. Just like that. Okay, so you can see it all just hanging out there. If you're going with the strawberry extract, because you can find it relatively easily, then just do 1/4 teaspoon. Seal and shake vigorously. Oh, we're already getting the pink. And then just pour it out. And then smooth it out as well. You can buy specific colors of food coloring. You can buy pink, you can buy neon coloring, you can buy all sorts. But if you are trying to use up what you already have, this is just a simple way to use up those 4 colors that typically come in those food dye packages. So now it's our purple and our pink. Regardless of the color or flavor, be sure to keep each separate. Allow each color to dry uncovered for a couple of hours to overnight. After the sugar dries, taste it. If you want more flavoring or color, simply return the sugar to the bag or jar, then add another 1/8 teaspoon of flavoring or drops of food coloring, shake and pour out onto the wax paper you've been using and let it dry again. You can repeat this step until you reach your desired flavoring. If you want more sugar, add another 1/4 cup, keep the same color and flavoring extract amounts, and then add more as you need to. So once the sugar dries, it may not be as shiny because it's not wet. And you also may notice that you have clumps of sugar, and that's okay. You just need to break it up, and they will break very easily. You could just run your hands through the bag if you store it in a bag or a container, whatever you want to do. Then store it. So you go after it dries, place it in a container that you can seal up. Now for the ones that you didn't put maybe quite as much liquid in it, then you're not going to have as much breaking up that needs to be done. It'll stay pretty separated. And so then of course, whatever container you want to put it in. I do like to store these in bags because they're easier to kind of break up if you need to, at least initially, and then they keep for a long time. Check out my blog linked in the description below for each of these recipes, along with 12 other color and extract flavorings like pumpkin pie spice sanding sugar and chocolate sanding sugar with chocolate flavoring. You just might be surprised at all the options. Have fun creating those sweet and flavorful toppings for your next dessert or snack. Making your own colored sanding sugar is so much cheaper than buying them commercially, and you can be creative with the flavors. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. Until next time, go bake the world.